Mornings come fast in Siem Reap. Motorbikes hum past us, tuk-tuks weave through traffic, dust lifting behind their wheels as we move towards Angkor again. There's no ceremony to the beginning of this day, no stillness, just motion, forward motion. And that feels right, because nothing we're about to walk through was ever meant to be passive. Angkor doesn't open itself gently. It asks you to enter with your body first. As we move deeper into the ancient city, the energy begins to shift. Not all at once, but subtly, step by step. The first gate we visit is the East Gate, often called the Gate of the Dead. Not because of spectacle, but because of silence. This was traditionally the gate used for funerary processions, a passage meant for departure, not arrival. And even now, it carries that weight. It's the quietest of Angkor Thom's gates. The body slows instinctively. You don't rush through a place like this. You pass through knowing something is being left behind. And I think that's why this gate stayed with me. The East Gate was my favorite. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was quiet. It felt sacred in a way that didn't ask for attention. No crowds, no noise, just stone, trees, and time. Everything around it felt softened by nature, the jungle holding it gently and not overtaking it. Standing there, it felt like something still lived in that silence, not in a haunting way, just present. Like the gate remembered what it was built for. And then the city continues, not dramatically, just deliberately. Further on, we reach the North Gate, and the shift is noticeable. This gate is more active, not as crowded as the South Gate, but more alive with movement. Locals passing, travelers pausing, life continuing. All of Angkor Thom's gates align with the cardinal directions, anchoring the city cosmologically. Direction mattered. Orientation mattered. The city itself was designed as a model of the universe. Passing through the North Gate feels different than the East, less about death and more about order, control, function, and inward facing. And yet, it stays with me too. The North Gate was striking in a different way. The jungle presses closer here, vines climbing the stone, and green wrapping itself around the structure. And you can get close, closer than you expect. Close enough to see the textures, the cracks, and the way nature is slowly reclaiming this form. And there's something powerful about that. It's not decay, it's coexistence. The gate doesn't feel abandoned, it feels held, like the jungle isn't erasing it, it's keeping it. By now, the pattern is clear. Angkor doesn't reveal itself all at once. It moves you through layers. And then without ceremony, you arrive at Preah Khan. It doesn't announce itself. There's no grand reveal. One moment you're moving through roads and gates, and the next, you're inside something that folds inwards. Corridors narrow, light thins, and stone shifts between shadow and sun. This isn't architecture meant to be admired from a distance. It's meant to be entered, to shape the way a body moves. Preah Khan was not only a temple, it functioned as sort of a city. Monks lived here and scholars studied here, healers worked here. Ritual and daily life overlapped. Sacred order wasn't symbolic, it was practiced. Walking through Preah Khan, that order is still felt. Not through instruction, but through design. Paths narrow at specific points, doorways lower your posture, turns slow your pace. You don't wander aimlessly. The space decides how you move. There's damage here. Stone fallen out of place and walls opened up by time. But none of it feels ruined. Moss softened edges, roots press gently through corridors. A quiet lake sits nearby. What remains feels integrated, shaped by centuries rather than preserved against them. As you move deeper inside, details begin to surface. Small, grounded, and easy to miss. Shiva lingas. Not statues and not figures, forms. The Shiva linga is one of the oldest sacred symbols in this region. It doesn't depict Shiva as a person. It depicts cosmic function, creation, dissolution, and renewal. The linga marks the axis, the vertical line where heaven, earth, and the underworld meet. In temples like this, the linga is not a decoration. It's placement. It marks the center. In the myth of the churning of the ocean of milk, a mountain is placed at the center of the cosmic sea. Everything depends on that point of balance. Without it, the churning destroys instead of creates. Here, that idea is scaled to human space. It's vertical, anchored, and still. Power concentrated to hold the world in place. You encounter more than one, not to overwhelm you, but to orient you, to remind you that this entire complex was designed around alignment, even if that alignment isn't obvious anymore. Then nearby, something else appears, a stupa. Where the linga directs energy upward, the stupa gathers inward. The stupa is a Buddhist form designed to contain relics, memory, and spiritual change. Its shape is intentional. It's rounded, enclosed, and stable. If the linga is about force entering the world, the stupa is about holding that force responsibly. This is Buddhism layered onto earlier Hindu cosmology, not replacing it and not erasing it, containing it. Here, the creation and restraint exist side by side. That pairing feels deliberate, because power without containment becomes destructive. Walking through Preah Khan, that tension is felt everywhere. The space asks something of the body, to bow, to slow, to pay attention. Order lives here, but it isn't rigid. It's layered, adapted, reworked over time. Just like belief, just like history. Standing here and observing, it feels less like the temple is falling apart and more like it's being returned. Returned to the jungle, returned to the elements, returned to time. And Preah Khan doesn't feel preserved. It feels resolved. Power here is no longer centralized or enforced. It's distributed, shared with roots, moss, water, air. The jungle doesn't fight the stone. It supports it even as it breaks down. And that feels intentional, because Preah Khan was never meant to last unchanged. It was meant to function, to teach, and eventually to release. Thousands of people once moved through these corridors, residents, students, caretakers. Order here wasn't theoretical. It was lived. And you can still feel that intelligence in the layout. In the way space guides you without instruction. In the way it teaches you how to move. It becomes clear that not all order is meant to endure forever. Some structures exist only long enough to show us what balance looks like. And when they've done that, they're allowed to dissolve. And there's humility in that. A recognition that time is the final authority. What becomes clearer the longer you stay in Preah Khan is that these forms weren't symbolic in a modern sense. They weren't metaphors. They were tools. The Shiva lingas weren't here to be admired. They were meant to be used. Daily rituals involved water pouring over the linga, not as an offering to a distant god, but as a way of activating flow. Water would pass over the stone, collect intention, prayer, vibration, and then move outward into the surrounding land. In this way, the linga functioned less as an altar and more as a conduit, a point where human devotion, natural elements, and cosmic order intersected. This wasn't about belief alone, it was about maintenance. Keeping the world in balance requires repetition, attention, and care. And the geometry of the linga reflects that responsibility. Its vertical form isn't arbitrary. It mirrors Mount Meru, the cosmic axis that holds the universe together in Hindu cosmology. It's the same axis that appears again and again across Angkor, scaled differently, expressed differently, but always present. At Preah Khan, that axis isn't monumental, it's intimate, small enough to encounter quietly, often unexpectedly, which changes the relationship. You don't stand before it in awe, you pass it, you notice it, you align yourself without ceremony. After a while, something shifts, not dramatically and not all at once. Just a quiet sense that you've reached the edge of what this place is asking you to hold. Preah Khan doesn't end with a conclusion. It ends with saturation, with the feeling that enough has been taken in, that the body has learned what it needs to learn here. So you step back out of the corridors and thresholds, out of stone that teaches through resistance, out of spaces that ask you to slow, bow, to carry weight with care. The air opens again, light widens, and without realizing it, you start looking for something else. Not answers, not meaning, but relief, balance, something that doesn't require effort to understand. And that's when the water begins to matter. Not as a symbol, not as a metaphor, but as a necessity. Because after all of that structure, all of that alignment, all of that held power, the body knows exactly what comes next. You don't leave Preah Khan searching, you leave it ready to soften. And that readiness carries you forward, toward a place designed not to guide or contain, but to restore. And that's where Neak Pean waits. The central shrine represents Mount Meru, the axis of the cosmos, the still point around which everything turns. Water surrounds it like the cosmic ocean, and the pools extend outward in the cardinal directions, mapping space, balance, and order. Nothing here is accidental. Every direction matters. Neak Pean is also associated with healing. During the Angkor period, this site was believed to be connected to a ritual medicine and royal care. Water here wasn't ornamental, it was purposeful. Healing in this worldview wasn't separate from cosmology. To restore the body, you restored balance in the universe. After walking through places obsessed with structure and control, Neak Pean feels like a pause. Not power enforced, but power recalibrated. In the story of the churning of the ocean of milk, the nectar doesn't appear immediately. First comes effort, then strain, then survival. Neak Pean feels like that moment. Not triumph, not reward, just restoration. A reminder that even kings needed places to recover, that no system of power escapes the need for care. Some things can't be forced. They have to be brought back into balance. And after that, the water and balance and stillness. The body asks for something simple. Food, shade, a pause. Lunch doesn't feel sacred, and that's kind of the point. We eat, we hydrate, we sit in plastic chairs and let the day catch up to us. Because even in places built for the gods and kings, you're still human, and eventually the day pulls us back out again. This time to East Mebon. Once an island in the middle of a vast reservoir. East Mebon was built to rise above water, not beside it. This place feels different immediately. There's a firmness to it, a clarity. East Mebon was once an island, built deliberately in the middle of a vast reservoir. It doesn't sit beside the water, it rose above it, and that choice tells you everything. This wasn't about adapting to nature, it was about reshaping it. The reservoir that once surrounded this temple wasn't accidental. It was engineered, redirected, and maintained. Water here wasn't allowed to wander. It was made to serve. and the land itself was constructed to hold power in its place. The temple stands elevated and symmetrical, refusing to soften to the landscape the way the other sites do. There's no sense of negotiation here, only intention. You feel that in the layout, in the geometry, in the way the structure asserts itself against the horizon. And at each corner, massive stone elephants stand guard. In Khmer cosmology, elephants represent strength, stability, and authority. They are world holders, bearers of weight. Here, they anchor the structure, holding the edges and stabilizing the form. They make it clear that this space is meant to endure, to remain fixed. East Mebon was dedicated to Shiva, but not Shiva as chaos or transformation or destruction. This is Shiva disciplined, harnessed, and contained. The same force that churns the universe, locked into stone. Standing here, you begin to feel how different this is from everything that came before. Preah Khan was allowed to soften, to be shaped by time and jungle. Neak Pean recalibrated balance through water and care. East Mebon does neither. East Mebon draws a line. This far and no further. This is where order stops yielding. And that kind of order comes with consequences. Because controlling water is never neutral. It creates abundance, yes. It feeds cities, it supports life. But it also demands constant effort, maintenance, obedience. Systems like this don't sustain themselves. They require vigilance. It's impossible not to think about what it takes to keep something like this intact. What must be organized, what must be suppressed, what must be enforced. Order doesn't just stabilize chaos, it contains it. And containment always comes at a cost. East Mebon feels like a moment frozen in time, when the system still worked, when the reservoir still held, when control still felt possible. Before the water receded, before the island became land, before the jungle began pressing back in, not because the builders failed, but because nothing holds forever. This isn't a ruin in a tragic sense, it's a record of what it takes to impose on the world and what it costs to maintain it. Standing among the elephants, you feel the weight of that choice. Stability here is not gentle, it's heavy. And as powerful as this place is, there's something uneasy about it too. Because when order hardens like this, it leaves very little room for adaptation. East Mebon doesn't bend, it doesn't listen, it holds. And eventually, everything that holds too tightly has to reckon with what's holding it back. And then this day shifts, out of temples, out of theory, out of stone and symmetry. Street noise, smoke rising off grills, and then the tarantula. Not as a dare, not as performance, but food. There's something strangely honest about that, isn't there? After days spent thinking about order, control, and cosmic design, this brings everything back into the body. Crunch. It's earthy, a little uncomfortable. A reminder that culture isn't something you observe from a distance. It's something people live inside of. This isn't novelty here, it's normal. And standing there watching it happen, you realize how thin the line is between fascination and fear, between reverence and instinct. In the story of the churning of the ocean of milk, poison rises before nectar. Before immortality, before reward, before balance is restored. This feels like that moment. The part of the story you don't skip. The part you have to face before anything sweet arrives. After gods and geometry and systems of control, the body has the last word. Hunger, risk, and reality. This is where we're going to leave it. Not resolved and not purified, just grounded for now. If this story stirred something in you, stay with it. Like the video, subscribe, and come back for the next chapter, because the churn isn't finished yet.